Star Wars fans, episode 6, the finale of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show is here. Obviously, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the new episode, I'm going to be breaking it down for you, going over all the crazy stuff that happened in this episode, so let's get right into it right now. What's up guys, Mike I Love Star Wars here. Today we're breaking down episode 6, the finale of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. This did not disappoint. Before I start this breakdown, tell me in the comments below what you'd rate this episode out of 10. I'm sitting on a high right now because I just watched the episode and I'm so pumped of what we got. So I'm sitting around a 9.5 out of 10, which is insane because who would have thought they would deliver this hard on a finale? But they did it. They did it. At least I think they did. Tell me in the comments below if you completely disagree with me and I'm insane and you think this episode sucked, or just tell me what you think in the comments below. Alright, without further ado, let's get right into this breakdown because it was awesome. Where we left off last week, we had Reva got stabbed in the chest, found this transmitter that had a message from Bail telling her that Obi-Wan was protecting something on Tatooine, a boy. Most likely she put 2 and 2 together and found out that that was Anakin's boy. For Obi-Wan, the episode ended with him on this transport with all the people that were on Jabeam trying to leave, and the hyperdrive is broken, so Vader and the Empire are right behind them. So the episode opens on Tatooine where you see Obi-Wan's old boss, the angry guy, when he was chopping up the meat, and he's at this stand asking for water or whatever, and Reva walks up to the stand asking for Uncle Owen. It cuts back to space where you see the ship that Obi-Wan and Leia and all of them are on, and it's getting shot down by the Empire. And Vader's just like, increase the firepower, we're putting these guys out. Then it cuts to Obi-Wan and he knows what he has to do. He's looking at all the people around him and he knows he has to save them by luring Vader away. Back on Tatooine, you see Luke and Owen looking for parts because Luke broke something, and the guy from the stand comes in and says, Owen, we got a problem. So this episode keeps cutting between Reva on Tatooine looking for Luke and the battle between Obi-Wan and Vader. And I don't really have a problem with this because in Revenge of the Sith, it was a lot of the same stuff where it just cut back and forth between the epic fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan. But that was an epic fight between Yoda and Palpatine, and this is just Reva chasing Luke in the desert. But it cuts back to Obi-Wan, and Leia is yelling at him saying, no, you can't leave, these people need you, you can't leave. And Obi-Wan, she can't understand. He needs to leave to lure Vader away. And he goes up to Haja and says, you have to protect this girl, get her home at all costs. He's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Back on Tatooine, Owen and Luke are back at the Lars homestead, and now Owen's talking to Peru, telling her what's happening. And Peru's like, we're going to stay and fight. We're not running. This is what we've been waiting for. We're going to protect Luke, not run. And she pulls out a bunch of guns from inside the wall. Back on the transport, Obi-Wan is saying goodbye to Leia, saying that she needs to trust him, that he has to do this, and gives her Tala's holster. Now, yes, you are correct. This is the same Tala that we saw explode in the last episode, so who knows how they got this holster from her, but they did. Then you see Obi-Wan sitting looking at his lightsaber, and he's calling out to Qui-Gon yet again, still no answer, but he says it ends today. Either I die or Vader dies. Which we now know is not true. Not at all. They both survive. Vader leaves in the escape pod, and you see that Vader sees this, and the Grand Inquisitor's like, we have to keep going after these rebels. We have to squish them, kill all of them, and make sure the rebellion does not rise. And Vader's like, no, we're going after Obi-Wan. Back on Tatooine, Owen tells Luke that the Tuskens are out hunting again and he has to hide. They do a great job of not showing Luke that Reva is chasing him, not showing Luke a red lightsaber, not showing Luke a blue lightsaber, not telling Luke anything about Jedi or Sith or anything, or the dark side or the Empire or anything in this episode. They do a great job at that because they pretty much just knock him out later in the episode, and he never sees Reva and never sees her red lightsaber and just thinks Tuskens are chasing him. You cut back to Obi-Wan, who is now landing at this planet that we've never seen before in Star Wars. At least I don't think. Tell me in the comments if we have, but I'm pretty sure it is a new planet. I don't know the name of it, but that's where he's heading. And it goes to Vader, who says, get me my ship. I am going to face him alone. Then you see Obi-Wan land on the planet, and he has Lola on board. Apparently Leia snuck her onto the ship, and Obi-Wan didn't know. Then you see a parallel of Reva showing up on Tatooine, and Vader showing up on this planet. It's rematch of the century time, and the dialogue is awesome, just like the first match of the century, which was in Revenge of the Sith. had some great dialogue right before it. This one does too. Vader says, "I've come to destroy you." And Obi-Wan looks at the man and he says, "I will do what I must." This is the same exact line from Revenge of the Sith. This is awesome. Oh my goodness, it's so good. And as he says that, he takes the Obi-Wan stance. Lightsaber above his head, 2 fingers out like this. The Obi-Wan stance. It's awesome. And Vader's response is, "You will die." So in Revenge of the Sith, Anakin says, "You will try," but now he says, "You will die." Because he's Vader now, he's no longer Anakin, and he's like, "You're not going to try, you're going to die." And Vader goes straight into attack mode, the same way he did in Revenge of the Sith. He goes straight at Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan does the same thing he did in Revenge of the Sith, and he stays on defense for the most part. So Reva ignites her saber when she's in the homestead looking for Owen, and Owen and Peru start just blasting her. And Peru runs back to protect Luke, and Owen fights Reva. Now this fight isn't that bad. For a person with a lightsaber versus a person who doesn't have a lightsaber or any force abilities, it's not that bad because Reva was just stabbed in the chest and is pretty much just living off of pure will right now. And Uncle Owen pretty much sees that and actually hits her cut a bunch of times to just make her weaker. But this fight is not that bad. Like I said, for a person who doesn't have a lightsaber or the Force, Uncle Owen stands his ground against Reva. But back on the planet, the rematch of the century is going hard, and Obi-Wan tries to force one of these giant rocks onto Vader. And Vader says, "Your strength is back, but your weakness remains." Vader pretty much just throws the rock right at Obi-Wan with no resistance at all and says, "And that is why you will lose." And Vader forces the ground, literally causing it to break open and Obi-Wan to fall down into the earth, which is insane. Can we talk about how insane that is? Vader just forced this shuttle down and tore it to pieces last episode, and now he just forced the ground and split it open. Split the whole entire planet open. This is insanity. And he walks up to the edge of this cliff that he just made and sees that he has the high ground. Now, this is awesome, by the way. He's got the high ground, and he literally just starts burying Obi-Wan. Takes all the rocks and just starts chucking them at him, burying him alive. And he sits there, looks at this pile that he just made on top of Obi-Wan and says, "You have failed, Master." Reva versus Owen fight clearly is not going too well, and Owen loses, and Luke starts to run across the desert. Under the rubble, Obi-Wan is forcing all the rocks above him so that he doesn't actually get squished completely, and he hears flashbacks of Anakin and even lines from Vader that he just heard in episode 3, and then he sees flashes of Luke and Leia. The hope that is left, the only hope that they have left, is Anakin's children. The only hope, the new hope, are Luke and Leia. And that is enough. He forces the rubble completely off of him and goes right back after Vader. But Obi-Wan starts beating Vader and hitting his chest, and you hear the same noise from Return of the Jedi when he starts to die, when he takes his helmet off and he's dying and his breathing apparatus is clearly broken, and you hear the same noise. It's like a pretty much like that. And then Obi-Wan knows that he's beating him, and he strikes his mask, literally cuts it down like we saw in Rebels when Ahsoka was fighting Anakin, and cuts it off. And you see Hayden Christensen, Anakin Skywalker, side of his face versus the side of Vader's face. Now, this is some of the coolest stuff we've ever seen in Star Wars. It's live action. Vader and Anakin literally cut down the side of his mask. It is so cool. I can't get over it. It is awesome. You hear Obi-Wan call him Anakin, and he gets mad. He says, "Anakin is gone." And Obi-Wan says, "I'm sorry for all of it." He's apologizing to Anakin, but Anakin's not there. And Vader looks at him and says, "I'm not your failure. You didn't kill Anakin. I did. The same way I'm going to destroy you." Then Obi-Wan says that my friend is truly dead, and he calls him Darth, the same way he called him Darth in A New Hope. When Alec Guinness is Obi-Wan in A New Hope and he calls him Darth, he doesn't refer to him as Anakin. This is really the time when he goes from calling him Anakin, thinking he's still Anakin Skywalker, to knowing that he's no longer Anakin and he is Darth Vader. Obi-Wan leaves, and I know this is going to anger a lot of people, but we know that Vader definitely does not die, so we know that Obi-Wan would not kill him. There's something called the original trilogy, and it kind of has to happen, meaning that Luke could not die in this episode, meaning that Vader could not die in this episode, meaning that Obi-Wan could not die in this episode. there's something called the original trilogy. It's pretty good. You might want to give it a watch sometime. But Reva is still chasing Luke on Tatooine, and Obi-Wan feels it, so he rushes to his shuttle and has to get back to Tatooine. Now Luke falls and gets knocked out, showing why he doesn't remember Reva or knows that Reva was even chasing him in the first place. And Obi-Wan lands on the planet and helps look for Luke. Says we'll find him at any cost. We'll search the whole Dune Sea, and Reva shows up holding Luke. He's still alive. Peru and Owen take Luke away inside, and Obi-Wan talks to Reva. She says, "Did I become him?" Talking about Vader. And Obi-Wan's like, "No, clearly you didn't, because you didn't kill Luke. You didn't do it. You are better than him." Reva survives. Now, Reva survives the episode, so we don't know where her story is going to end, but she survives this moment. We know she's not in the original trilogy. We know she's not in Rogue One. We know she's not in Rebels. We know that she is not going to survive much longer, but she survives the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Then it cuts to Mustafar, and we see Vader's castle again, and he's sitting in his throne. He tells somebody that the probe droids are out looking at the surrounding systems, and they will find Obi-Wan, and that somebody is Emperor Palpatine. Ian McDiarmid came back to reprise his role as Palps, and it was epic. He pretty much tells Vader, "You have to overcome your past," and Vader's like, "I get it. Obi-Wan means nothing to me. I serve only you, Master." And obviously Vader has a brand new suit. He's not still struggling to breathe, but that's the last we see of Vader in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. It cuts to Alderaan, where Leia is now there, and she's wearing her holster proud, and Obi-Wan shows up. Obi-Wan tells Leia the qualities that she has of her parents, but obviously doesn't tell her who her parents were. Leia says, "Will I ever see you again?" And Obi-Wan says, "Well, maybe if you need the help of an old man." And of course we know that she needs his help in A New Hope. "Help me, Obi-Wan, you're my only hope." Back on Tatooine, Obi-Wan is clearing out his cave that he's been living in since episode 1, but we know in A New Hope he actually has a house, so he's leaving his cave, and he goes to the homestead of the Lars, where he tells Owen that you're the only protection that Luke needs. I will keep my distance. I won't bother you anymore. And Owen says, "Do you want to meet the boy?" He walks over to Luke with the same toy that Luke has in A New Hope, that is that Imperial shuttle thing that he tried to give him in episode 1. And he says the greatest 2 words that probably will ever be said by Obi-Wan in Star Wars, and they are, "Hello there." Legendary. And as Obi-Wan leaves, he's walking across the desert, and he sees Force Ghost Qui-Gon Jinn. Liam Neeson himself reprising the role as Qui-Gon Jinn. I mean, this show gave you everything you wanted, and that is the end of the episode, so it rolled credits right after that. No second ending, no post-credits scene, whatever. But this gave you everything you wanted. You got Palps. You got Vader with half his mask cut off. You got the rematch of the century. You got Luke not breaking canon by seeing Reva with a red lightsaber or anything like that. You didn't see any canon breaking. You just saw awesomeness. Force Ghost Qui-Gon. You just saw awesomeness after awesomeness after awesomeness after awesomeness. Even Obi-Wan literally said, "Hello there." So maybe I'm crazy, but this episode was amazing. The finale did not disappoint. I still give it a 9.5 out of 10. Obviously, the Reva and Luke stuff was not that cool, or not as cool as the rematch of the century, but that didn't take away from the story at all. It didn't take away at all. Now, obviously, there's a lot of questions remaining, like where's Reva going to go from here? She survived. Is Obi-Wan ever going to leave the planet again, because he's still left to go say goodbye to Leia? Who knows? Will he ever show up in Andor? I'm going to make plenty of videos on that stuff, but this is just a breakdown for now. So tell me in the comments what you thought of this episode. If you haven't ranked it out of 10, rank it out of 10. Smash like if you like this video, hit subscribe, and hit that bell so you get notified every time I post a video. And my pretty face will show up in that recommended feed of yours. It is the end of Obi-Wan, but it is not the end of Star Wars by any means. Andor is at the end of the summer, and then we got Mando, then we got all this animated stuff that comes out, Tales of the Jedi, all that fun stuff, and then you got Ahsoka, and then you got the Lando series and the Acolyte and all that other fun stuff. So Star Wars is not nearly close to being over by any means. But the Obi-Wan Kenobi show is for now, and it was such a great ending, and I'll be making plenty of videos on all of the stuff that happened in the finale, and you don't want to miss out on any of it, so don't forget to hit subscribe and hit that bell. If you want to talk nerdy Star Wars stuff with nerdy Star Wars people, there's a link to a Discord in the description below. I'm sure people will be talking about the finale, and if you want to talk about it with some Star Wars nerdy people, there is a link in the description below. And may the Force be with you always.